Neil, I've just spoken to Mr. Nolan. I think that you're taking too many extracurricular activities this semester, and I've decided that you should drop schooling.
But I'm the assistant editor this year.
I'm sorry.
But, Father, I can't. It wouldn't be fair.
Fellas, would you excuse us for a moment? Don't you ever dispute me in public, you understand?
Father, I wasn't
When you finish medical school and you're on your own, then you can do as you damn well please. But until then, you do as I tell you. Is that clear?
Sir, sir.
You know how much this means to your mother, don't you?
Yes, sir. You know me, I was thinking not so much.
Well, listen, you need anything, you let us know.
Yes, sir.
How many have had someone who did that to you in one way or another? Somehow said to your vision, no. To who you were, stop. Somehow put a limitation or a block, an obstacle to something in your life. We have that happen on a regular basis, and it's really simple to blame them for it, isn't it? Whoever the them are. As soon as this is over, Neil, the boy in this clip, and a couple of his friends begin to talk, and Neil says, you guys are just as stuck as me. Right? Because they are in some ways. Dad's paying for this schooling that allows them to see a vision that they can't get to alone. Or mom's helping in this way, or this is going on, or this is how it's empowering. So there's a certain amount of where they have control, and it feels like they're stuck there, that they can't do anything but go the way Dad wants. But they have a choice, don't they? In every moment, we have a choice that keeps us there. We choose because we're not willing to pay whatever price it is that allows us to escape from that space of stuckness. And it's easy to stay there feeling sorry for ourselves, but there's always a different, better choice to be made. Our movie is Dead Poets Society, and it is about a man, a teacher named John Keating, who chooses to help Neil and his friends see a different way.
But while you may, old time is still a-flying, and this same flower that smiles today, tomorrow will be dying.
Thank you, Mr. Pitts. Gather ye rosebuds while ye may. The Latin term for that sentiment is carpe diem. Who knows what that means?
Carpe diem. That seize the day.
Very good, Mr.
Meeks.
Meeks. Another unusual name. Seize the day. Gather ye rosebuds while ye may. Why does the writer use these lines?
Because he's in a hurry.
No! Ding! Make your mind anyway. Because we are food for worms, lads. Because believe it or not, each and every one of us in this room is one day going to stop breathing, turn cold, and die. I'd like you to step forward over here and peruse some of the faces from the past. You've walked past them many times, but I don't think you've really looked at them. They're not that different from you, are they? Same haircuts, full of hormones, just like you. Invincible, just like you feel. The world is their oyster. They believe they're destined for great things, just like many of you. Their eyes are full of hope, just like you. Did they wait until it was too late to make from their lives even one iota of what they were capable? Because you see, gentlemen, these boys are now fertilizing daffodils. If you listen real close, You can hear them whisper their legacy to you. Go on, lean in. Listen. You hear it?
Seize the day. Carpe diem. Make your lives extraordinary. Mr. Keating called these students to see and become more than what the everyday would call out of them. Our call to awareness said that we easily become unconscious in life. And that's what he says we have to go beyond. Because life calls us to see only so far, and often it's the challenges and the obstacles that are there that we cannot see beyond. But he calls them to see bigger. In fact, he calls them to see huge. What can be possible? What can they be? What can life be? And he encourages them to reform a club called the Dead Poets Society, where they're looking back into those poets who have spoken before and who've called out visions into the world. And they begin to call him after a Walt Whitman poem, and they call him Captain, Oh My Captain. And they allow him to grow their vision. They allow him to make it so they see something they hadn't been seeing and become something. They allow him to draw them on marvelous adventures of insight, both to the world around them and the soul within them. And all of us need to go on that same type of journey, don't we? For we all get stuck in that space of unaware. The space where we're dealing with the stuff that's most present, most immediate. And we forget that which is beyond. We need to see that this world is incredible. We need to see that we and the people around us are amazing. We need to let the richness of this world and everything about it enter into us and change us and move us to become something much more than we would alone. And every day that they go to that Dead Poets Society meeting, they read this poem by Uncle Walt. I went to the woods because I wanted to live deliberately. I wanted to live deep and suck all the marrow of life, to put to rout all that was not life, and not, when I had come to die, discover that I had not lived. Thoughtful living, deliberate living, choosing to see something more than just the immediate. See the poetry of what God brings into that life. And we have to continually choose to carpe diem. To seize this moment, this day. We have to continually choose to see more than just the obstacle that it is, more than just the challenge, more than just the unwanted that it is. We have to do that every single day, every single moment. So I have two warnings for you as you try to live that deliberate life. First of all, you should know it's not easy. You have to continually choose it. Knox, one of those boys you saw, what it was calling into him, what Mr. Keating was saying was that romantic self, because there was this girl. And as a teenage boy often is, he was a little scared of her. Didn't know quite how to take that step, especially because she had a big football player boyfriend. And so they said, no, carpe diem. And finally he said this, all right, you're right, carpe diem. even if it kills me. Because it feels like it will sometimes, doesn't it? What God puts in our hearts, what life calls us to, sometimes looks like I can't do that road because it's challenging, dangerous, or dark, and I don't want to go there. And yet, our soul is called in that direction. And can we find the power, the strength, the resilience to move down that road in spite of whatever? Can we understand the vision that's drawing us there and grasp the vision more than the obstacle? And to do that, Mr. Keating said you have to stand up on your desk. And so he got them all to stand up. And he crossed across his steps so that you could see things in a different way. And sometimes you have to have that different perspective, don't you? Because when we sit down here in our own stuff, we get blinded by that stuff. We have to place ourselves in some way where we can see over top of it. Sometimes it's by speaking to someone else who helps us to hear and see things we can't see alone. Sometimes it's by removing ourselves off to that wood place that Whitman would call you to. Sometimes it's just by placing yourself in a situation where you can very intentionally and deliberately choose to see more than right now, this moment, this person. What helps you to stand on that desk and see more? In theological circles, we have a word to describe this, and it's a pretty technical word, long, one of those that's hard to pronounce, but, I'm a seminary, so I know how to do that. Joy. And joy is an important word because it's that which says it doesn't matter that the situation is challenging or difficult, I choose to be optimistic anyway. It's not just happiness, because happiness says something good is happening, so I will be happy. Joy is that which brings me the same type of sense as happiness, but it comes in spite of some of that stuff that's happening around me. I choose to find a joy in the midst of what isn't quite happy, in the midst of what's not quite easy. In the midst of the obstacle, I choose to be able to take a higher perspective, to see past just the challenge and the obstacle. Because I believe God is the call to carpe diem, the call to see beyond right here, and seize the moment to be able to be more than just what that moment itself calls out of you, just what that challenge makes you want to be. It says be more than that, see more than that. And second of all, I want to tell you that the other warning is that it's not always fun or interesting for you. It's not always just about you. It is about larger than you. It's not always the easiest path that Carpe Diem calls into you. It is about choosing what is deepest within you. It is about discovering the piece of you that is truly the soul of you and following that in spite of the challenge. When you read, said Mr. Keating, don't just consider what the author, they want. Consider what it calls out of your soul. What's the deeper space of that moment? What is each moment calling you to become? What is each moment asking you to see that you haven't seen before? And it means to fully insert yourself into each moment of life and let it penetrate completely inside of you so that it moves you to be something more than you would be without that moment. Discover what's more than just what's easily accessible, or whatever's quickly approaching, or what's most profitable. In our movie, John Keating has them open the book and read the introduction to this book of poetry by Mr. J. Pritchard. And it's one of those scholarly things that tells you how to read poetry. And then he tells the students, tear that out. Because it's not an academic thing that they're doing, it is a soul thing. Poetry is about reaching into a soul. And then he tells them to huddle up.
Can change the world. I see that look in Mr. Pitt's eye. Like 19th century literature has nothing to do with going to business school or medical school, right? Maybe. Mr. Hopkins, you may agree with him, thinking, yes, we should simply study our Mr. Pritchard and learn our rhyme and meter and go quietly about the business of achieving other ambitions. A little secret for you. Good luck. Good luck! We don't read and write poetry because it's cute. We read and write poetry because we are members of the human race, and the human race is filled with passion. And medicine, law, business, engineering, these are noble pursuits and necessary to sustain life. But poetry, beauty, romance, love, these are what we stay alive for. To quote from Whitman, "O me, O life of the questions of these recurring, of the endless trains of the faithless, of cities filled with the foolish, what good amid these, O me, O life?" Answer, that you are here, that life exists and identity, that the powerful play goes on and you may contribute a verse. The powerful play goes on and you may contribute a verse.
Poetry, beauty, romance, love, these are what we stay alive for. These are soul things. Not the surface stuff where we often exist, the easy place to exist. This is going deep into a space called purpose. That's where joy lives. When you discover what is your true purpose, what is it that God has placed inside of you, and how do you follow that? How do you listen to that deeper call? I believe that a fever has come upon our country in a lot of ways where we define much of purpose by two other things, which are not purpose at all: money and power. We do a lot of following those two things, don't we? We do a lot of letting them dictate ourselves and who we are and what we do, and they can blind our eyes to purpose. But the biggest bank account can never give us true purpose. And the largest margin of victory will never, ever fully define life. They can't. And so John Keating asks, what will your verse be? What is it that God has written into your heart and soul? How is it that God wants you to somehow sing something back out into this creation and help this creation become something because you were a part of it? Judy Mitchell went off to her home in Cleveland right before the RNC, and she saw something remarkable and began to sing into her soul. And they took one of the bridges leading up to the convention center, and they shut it off, and they surrounded that bridge, both sides of the road, and they stood there in silence and let each person pray a prayer of connectedness. Pray whatever it is they wanted to speak inside their heart and inside their soul. But more importantly, they came together to say, can we find together a space of love? And she said, that's part of where I hear God calling me. So she brought that back to Tucson. And so a week ago, we stood on a corner down on Congress, and there was a small group of us, and we said, can we remember love? The good news is, in a week or two, there'll be another of those. And periodically through this, shall I say, tumultuous time, we will be praying that prayer. Not any specific prayer from the group, but whatever is in each soul that connects us together and reminds us of that community that we are and the importance of that love. So thank you, Judy, for following that purpose, that call, that poetry that God has placed in your life? What is it that God places in your life? There is something wonderful and important in you that God wants you to sing into this world, something that you can bring to this world that will change this place forever. But you have to find it, and you have to choose to walk it. At one point, John Keating brings all the boys out into the courtyard and has 3 of them walk, and they start walking in a march, and all the other kids start clapping, and they all fall into a pattern. And then he stops them and says, that's fine, but that's not the purpose. What is your walk? What is it that God has for you? How is it that God is calling you not to be like everyone else, not to clap along with someone else's walk, but how is it that God is asking you to be something and do something? And to figure that out, you have to listen to voices that are beyond yours, I think. And oftentimes voices that were not yours originally. Mine was Mrs. McCampbell. Mrs. McCampbell was not the easiest voice for me to listen to because she was the senior English teacher, and let's just say English was not the subject that I wanted to put the most effort into. I liked Miss Finner. She was my math teacher. I loved that stuff. I liked her husband, Mr. McCampbell. He was the science teacher. I got to be his lab aide, and I liked being able to do those kinds of things. But this was English. This was words. And she had me read a book that I never thought I would read. It's called The Shropshire Lad. I don't know if you know it, by a man named A.B. Housman. It's a little short book of poetry. And in this book of poetry, I had to search to find something I liked. You know, high school student, very optimistic about the world, moving forward. So I found one. It goes like this. It says, oh, when I was in love with you, then I was clean and brave, and miles around the wonder grew, how well did I behave? But now the fancy passes by, and nothing will remain in miles around. They'll say that I am quite myself again. That I understood. I got that poem. But then there were the other ones. Like when I was 1 and 20, I heard a wise man say, give pounds and crowns and guineas. Sorry, I was losing that. But not your heart away. Now I am 2 and 20. And oh, 'tis true. 'Tis true. That I didn't understand. I was full of that optimism that those boys had. How can that be true? How can that be positive? How can that help me move forward? And yet, she continued to have me look, what is beyond the seeming pessimism of that moment? That love will die, that things won't happen perfect, that it won't be everything you wished it would be. How do I see beyond that? How do I get past that block? One of the poems that helped me was this. Wide in the moon the long road lies. The moon stands blank above. Wide in the moon the long road lies that leads me from my love. Still hangs the hedge without a gust. Still the shadows stay. My feet upon the moonlit dust pursue the ceaseless way. The world is round, so travelers tell, and straight through reach the track. Trudge on, 'twill all be well. The way will guide one back. But ere the circle homeward hies, far, far it remove. Wide in the moon the long road lies that leads me from my love. And sometimes we just see the long road. But that spirit whispers, it leads back. It brings us to. And can we hold on to that longer, larger, huger vision that our purpose calls us to? That longer view of seeing things and being things that our God calls us to become. Can we hold on to that in the midst of whatever the obstacle is that's right in front of us? Mrs. McCampbell taught that to me, in spite of me not wanting to hear. And I began finding my voice, my poetic voice, that which began to let my soul sing, began to let my soul become, began to let my soul discover beyond just myself. And I heard wonderful songs that helped me change the world.
Decided that it's worth a great deal. I sound my are Eric Yelp. Rooftops of the world. W. Uncle Walt again. Now, for those of you who don't know, a yelp is a loud cry or yell. Now, Todd, I would like you to give us a demonstration of a barbaric yelp. Come on, you can't yelp sitting down. Let's go, come on, up. I get a yelping stance. A yelp. No, not just a yelp. A barbaric yelp.
Yelp.
Come on, louder.
Yelp.
Oh, that's a mouse. Come on, louder.
Yelp.
We gotta go yell like that! There it is! You see, you're a barbarian in you after all. Now, you don't get away that easy. Picture Uncle Walt up there. What does he remind you of? Don't think it.
A man.
What kind of man, man? Well, think about it. Just answer again.
A crazy man.
Oh, you can do better than that. Free up your mind. Use your imagination. Say the first thing that pops into your head, even if it's total gibberish.
A sweaty-toothed man.
Good God, boy. There's a poet in you after all. There, close your eyes. Close your eyes. Close them. Now, describe what you see.
I close my eyes.
Yes?
And this image floats beside me.
Sweaty-toothed madman.
The sweaty-toothed madman with a stare that pounds my brain.
Oh, that's excellent. Now give him action. Make him do something.
His hands reach out and choke me. And all the time he's mumbling.
What's he mumbling?
Mumbling truth. Truth like a blanket that always leaves your feet cold.
Forget them. Stay with the blanket. Tell me about that blanket.
You push it, stretch it, it'll never be enough. You kick at it, beat it, it'll never cover any of us. From the moment we enter crying to the moment we leave dying, it'll just cover your face as you wail and cry and scream.
Who taught your soul to sing? Who taught you to hear that poetry and that purpose within you? That's our job, to help each other to discover that. Help each other to sing out whatever it is that is there and to live that life. Oh, Captain, my captain, they called him. And that poem is a wonderful one by Walt Whitman, but it's not a happy poem necessarily. The story in it is about a captain who has died there on the deck of the ship trying to bring them home. And he's died, but they've discovered how to come home anyway. They've made it themselves, inspired by who he was, but without him being able to come with them. And that's your job, is to hear the voices that have inspired you and somehow then become the inspiration for someone else, even though you may or may not ever see the end. In the words of one of my great poetic prophets, I may not get there with you, but I know that together we will see the promised land. Martin Luther King. He spoke poetic visions into my life that continue to haunt me and draw me and help me become so much. Who haunts you because of the way they lived? And maybe even more importantly, what is the poetic, the barbaric yop that God has placed in your life? What is it you're supposed to sing? What is it you're supposed to become? How is it you're supposed to get up on your chair and somehow scream something into this world without knowing who it is that will listen? listen and without knowing how it is that it will change people. How is it that God is speaking into you in such a way that you can't stop